The first warning wasn't missile launch or shout over the airwaves. It was a single line of numbers that stopped agreeing with itself, a quiet but persistent signal that reality was drifting away from the plan. On the cockpit display of the B-2 Spirit of Vengeance, 2 navigation solutions, both formally correct, began to separate by fractions just beyond what the mission profile allowed. It happened on March 28, 2026, at 2:17 local time, when the bomber had already been airborne for 9 hours, having slipped out over the Indian Ocean from Diego Garcia. The discrepancy was only 0.5 arc minutes. Not enough to light the master caution. Not enough to abort and report straight to the Pentagon. Enough for the aircraft commander, Major Evans, to feel the chill. Stealth isn't a superpower. It's discipline chained to patience, and patience is chained to fuel. You don't win by becoming invisible. You win by making the enemy not notice the moment you're already here. The mission was a response to an escalation that had begun weeks earlier. On March 1st, Iran had struck the American base in Dubai. Oasis had been erased by a volley of Zulfiqar and Khaybar-Shikan ballistic missiles. U.S. losses, 133 dead, the comms node paralyzed. But on March 28th, Iran went further. Intelligence intercepted orders. Iranian brigades in Zagros and near Semnan had activated search radars and prepared new salvos. They were hunting for the next base, presumably in Bahrain or Qatar, probing the American presence in the Gulf with missiles. Jammers online, reconnaissance drones in the air, rockets pointed at suspicious sectors. The Iranians thought they were hunting. But while their radar swept the horizon, America was already inside Iran, an unseen B-2 in their airspace, a ghost. Below lay central Iran, the Zagros ridges, dry plains, hidden tunnels, and compounds. The target wasn't a base or a warehouse. It was a person, Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, at his residence in Tehran, coordinating retaliatory strikes. Drone and satellite reporting confirmed. On March 28th, Khamenei hadn't gone deep into the bunker near Qom. He stayed at the complex, gardens, subterranean levels, elite IRGC security, so he could issue order for missile search strikes on American bases in the Gulf. He won't expect us here, the briefing said. Escalation had forced him to take the risk, to personally manage salvos against Oasis 2, as they called the assumed target. The residents drew power from the city grid with backup reserves, ringed by air defenses, S-300s and local clones. But against a stealth bomber carrying precision weapons, it was thin. The crew, Evans and his co-pilot, Lieutenant Rivera, spoke in clipped bursts. INS drift at 0.8 minutes. Satellite lock holding, SNR dropping from their jamming. Passive picture stable, no new emitters in the threat sector. Radio silence wasn't a mood. It was a rule with teeth. Every transmission is a thread. Threads become patterns. Patterns kill. Outside, a moonless March 28th night. Tehran smog smearing city lights into a dull band. The terrain refused to behave. Mosque rooftops, antenna farms, heat stains from patrols. The B-2 flew through a world built on deception. Iranian radars lit, scanning the Gulf for bases, never looking up. Navigation anchors. The inertial platform and satellite pulses. The INS is stubborn. It keeps counting through interference, but the error snowballs. Satellites correct. If they aren't suppressed by Iranian jammers running at full power, trying to blind American systems over the Gulf. That was the first real tension, divergence. The INS insisted on one vector. The satellite solution hinted at another. Difference. 450 meters along a slant range of 1,300 kilometers. Growing slowly, steadily. In the rear station, Rivera ran passive cross-checks without unnecessary words. Evans monitored the electronic order of battle, not hunting for radars, but listening to how silence changed when radars held their breath. In 2026, danger isn't always bright. Sometimes it's just a sector where the noise becomes too perfectly smooth. Refueling had happened 5 hours earlier over the ocean. Clinical, in darkness, without a word. The tanker is a lighthouse in the night, even when dimmed. Everyone hated that moment. Everyone depended on it. Now, on approach to Iran, the B-2's job wasn't to fight. The job was to arrive in the right patch of sky at the right second, while Iran wasted missiles searching for bases in the Gulf. Mountains and city offered no cover, only open air and the knowledge that Iranian SAMs needed one clean snapshot to move from search to lock. Then the threat indicator did something worse than scream. It blinked, a narrow pulse, 1.2 seconds, then gone, as if a radar below had flicked on for a heartbeat, asking, "Is there something there?" The crew didn't flinch. They tightened protocols. The most dangerous thing is near detection, and choosing to ignore it. Drift climbed to 620 meters. The ether felt more awake. Iran was lighting more radars to hunt bases. Time kept ticking. Meanwhile, inside the residence, Khamenei issued orders. Launch test salvos into Gulf sectors. Find their base. Missile units in the mountains stirred, but America was already above them. The second warning arrived like a whisper inside electronic noise, a signal that shouldn't have been there, but was confirming Iran was hunting in the wrong place. On the synthetic aperture, fired in microbursts, a phantom flashed, a clean glint on azimuth 105, range 920 kilometers. It vanished in 0.8 seconds. Probably a reflection off their search radar, Evans thought, but it was a sign. On March 28th, Iran had intensified its Gulf scan, firing probing missiles to search for the next American base. Intelligence reported 3 Fateh 110s launched toward Bahrain, carrying decoy warheads, meant to provoke radar responses and expose positions. The Iranians believed they controlled the game. But while their missiles flew over water, the B-2 was already over Iran, closing on Tehran. The bomber shifted into an ultra-low regime. Engines throttled back, altitude adjusted for terrain masking. No active sensors, only passive systems and preloaded maps. In the bays, 2 GBU, 57 massive ordnance penetrators, 30,000 pounds each, intended to punch through hardened levels, not carpet bombing. A precise strike into the subterranean floors from which the hunt was being directed. Crew chatter got even shorter. Accumulated drift 1.2 kilometers. Passive ELINT, no new spikes. Time to target plus 5 minutes. Silence was doctrine with consequences. One extra emission, and Iranian radars, busy with the Gulf, might swivel. Outside, March 28th night, wind dragging dust in from the deserts, blurring Tehran's lights. The horizon drowned in smog, no sharp references, no stars. The world refused to be measured, especially with Iranian jammers at full power, blinding satellites over the Gulf. Tension rose, error 1.6 kilometers, still within limits, but margin melted like ice under sun. Rivera validated the package. Residence coordinates, main hall, underground bunker, where the leader sat over maps, ordering missile search strikes. Refueling had been textbook. Now came the deep run, arrive unseen. Tehran didn't hide it. SAM rings all around. But their radars were oriented south, toward the Gulf, where Iran was firing missiles to find bases. The indicator blinked again, now a steadier impulse. A low-energy probe. Not a lock, just a taste. Reaction. Course correction 4 degrees, climb 700 feet. Discipline. The most lethal moment is near lock, and deciding it doesn't matter. Drift. 2.1 kilometers. The ether grew louder. Iranian channels reporting possible contacts in the Gulf. Inside the residence, the order came, another salvo. Find them. Rockets launched. But the B-2 was closer. Washington watched. Iran is distracted. Window is open. The B-2 ate 200 miles in silence. The third warning was no longer a warning. It was geometry snapping into place while Iran burned missiles for nothing. March 28th, 3:42. At 36,000 feet, the B-2's bay doors opened for 1.7 seconds. 2 mops dropped. Doors sealed. The bombs accelerated into the dark. Guidance corrected down to meters. Iranian air defense, nothing. Their radars tracked their own missiles over the Gulf. The fourth probing salvo had launched, still trying to find a base, but they didn't see the threat above their head. The first MOP hit the roof of the compound. punched through concrete, drove 150 feet down, detonated. The shock wave shredded the hull. Its target was there at a table, issuing orders. No time to evacuate. No chance to flee to calm. Instant. The second MOP struck the bunker. Collapse, fire, severed communications. The residents flared. Guards in chaos. Sirens howled across Tehran. The B-2 was already leaving. Release. Hit telemetry. No lock. Egress initiated. Air defense didn't react. Its gaze was pointed the wrong way. On the ground, explosions echoing through the city. Satellites registering fire. Washington. Target eliminated. Iran in paralysis. Crew. Checklist exhaustion. Iran. Missiles over the Gulf splashed into water, finding nothing. At home, lost at the top. The most dangerous part is the silence afterward. The fourth warning was a morning silence of March 28th, when Iran recognized defeat. By 6:30, the residence was ruins, smoke hanging over Tehran. Rescuers pulled bodies from the wreckage. Officially, 8 hours of silence, then a statement. The supreme leader has fallen to American aggression. Death confirmed. Succession. Chaos inside the IRGC. Mid-level commanders taking control. The missile search in the Gulf stopped. Salvos found nothing, and the strike at home paralyzed decision-making. The B-2 was home. Debrief. Mission succeeded. Washington. Iran paralyzed for 72 hours. Response week. The world. Oil plus 20%. The Gulf on alert. The UN in panic. Social media. Videos of ruins. End of an era. Tehran. Mourning and questions. State media. Martyr. But without a voice at the top, only static. Crew. We were there while they were searching. Dust began to bury the scars. The clock restarted. Louder for America now.